When it comes to racing in video games, there are two options for you. Most of the time, you have your cartoony mascot racer with the usual question mark boxes, colorful tracks, and the super ultra death weapon to make sure you're not having too much fun. Then you got your realistic driving simulators like your Forza and Gran Turismo if you want to get quote unquote real with your racing, with the realistic racetracks, realistic drifting, and the realistic DUI. What I'm trying to say is that there are plenty of racers that fill our void, whether you want to drive in colorful carts or drive in your Ferrari. But what if there are racing games that are neither of those things? What if you want a racing game that isn't cartoonishly out there, but not realistic either? Boy, do I have two games for you.
Get in the car!
Jak! Are you crazy? You ruined my story!
Come on, kid. You think you can beat me? No way!
Today we will be taking a look at these racing games that are unlike any other. The speed adrenaline F-Zero GX versus the weapon-heavy carnage that is Jak X. Two different futuristic racing games with death and death.
No! Oh!
Of course! Retire.
We're pitting these two games into which is the better game. As always, this is my opinion, and I love these games regardless of their outcome. If you disagree with me, that is great. We all have our different favorites. This is just a topic to have a discussion on. With that being said, rev up those engines and let us discuss. Like last time, we will be comparing these games on different fronts and categories, which includes the gameplay, controls, music, presentation, and content overall, with a bit more emphasis on the first two categories since the handling, maneuverability, and the speeds of the cars you will be racing in will either make it a great racing game or big rigs. With that out of the way, let us begin. F-Zero GX's gameplay pits you alongside 29 other racers in a track where you speed your way to the finish line by either speeding past the competition, taking those risky shortcuts, or kill. Yes, in F-Zero GX, in order for you to win first place, you're going to have to kill to win if you want to be ahead of the competition. Especially in cup races, you're going to have to kill your opponent, so that they do not get more points than you, making sure they know their place at the road. Oh, and to win, I guess. You don't have to win all races in the game, as long as you have more points than others. The game will tell you who you should be aiming for, as killing them will make sure they do not have points for the race, leaving you remaining at first place. The game is also extremely skill-based. You go extremely fast in the races, requiring you to make those sharp turns, have quick reflexes, and to boost your way through the competition. Responsibly, of course. The meter on your top right of the screen at first your health for your car, but at the second lap, the health is also your boost meter now. You can then boost by pressing a button and go faster in short bursts. Be careful, however, because as you boost, the meter goes down. Spamming it will cause, that. Do not fret though. All of these tracks have space-colored areas where you can refill your meter, but these things will get smarter and harder to reach each race. The game requires you to master these mechanics if you want to even have a chance at winning. And this game can be extremely hard, but in a fun, sadistic way. It will test your skills, reflexes, and most of all, your temper.
Of course!
I know. The game can get cruel, but trust me, you'll feel like a super ultra player if you can beat the game after so many tries. In normal mode.
Too bad, you lost your machine.
Jak X is a combat racer. Yeah, you race with a few other racers and win first place, with violence. Unlike most mascot racing games, you have several types of power-ups you can get in 4 flavors. Blue Eco refills your boost gauge. Yellow Eco gives you a long-range weapon, like guns, grenades, and missiles to attack those in front of you. Red Eco will give you a weapon to attack from behind with mines, oil spills, or shields. And Green Eco refills your health. Using both red and yellow Eco to attack a defense will build up your dark Eco meter. Max it out and it'll make your projectiles hit even harder until you crash or go off track, or you will start from scratch. The game will test you making sure that you cut those corners just right so you don't crash and keep the flow going, which will fill your blue Eco meter by drifting. You can also fill up the meter by getting serious hang time. The boost and drift mechanics remind me a lot of Crash Team Racing's mechanics, as they encourage speed by doing them often. Later on, the game will be cool with turns. This makes it a fun racing game if you want to create carnage and death to those who oppose you across the track. Speaking of which, if you get too damaged, you will die in the most brutal way possible, with the game giving you a wipeout camera every time you get blasted, all of sport commentary. As for who wins in gameplay, well, while I love the gameplay in GX and feel fulfilled with every race, Jak X to me has the better gameplay with the drift mechanics and varying items that lead to on-the-quick thinking of which way to go for, as opposed to the more skill-based racing GX offers. GX is pretty hard and fast, but I feel like there's more to enjoy in Jak X. Controls in a racing game are very, very important to get right. The way how it handles, how fast it goes, how the weight of the car feels in gameplay are what makes a good racing game. You want to have control over your car while having a good feel for it when traversing in high speeds or making those turns, so you don't go out of bounds, and because of that, I'll be going into more depth into this category than the last video. F-Zero GX is controlled with the analog stick. You accelerate with A, boost with Y, spin attack with Z, and brake with B, and
Slide to the left. Slide to the right.
L and R shoulder buttons. You can also make sharp turns with the shoulder buttons on whatever turns you need to take. Sure, it may seem simple, but in order to have a chance of winning, you're going to have to use the controls to kill off and speed past the competition. This brings the overall feel and control of the cars. To start with, before every race, you can adjust to your car's acceleration or top speed. This brings in strategy into which one you want to prioritize for different races. You can either raise your acceleration on if you know the track itself is going to get bumpy, blaze past the competition carefully with above average speed, or find a middle ground. One thing to note is that there are multiple characters and each of their cars have different stats. Regardless of such, playing with GX, it feels great to drive around and go really fast. I often feel like I am controlled of my car and how it handles, and the weight of them makes them feel just right to make sure I stay on the ground instead of flying off the course. Be careful as you go too fast, as you may lose your grip and control. Other than that, the game controls good and plays good. Jak X pretty much uses every button on the controller for different purposes. The X button is used for acceleration, square to brake, circle to emergency brake, R1 for yellow eco weapons, L1 for red eco weapons, L2 to jump for hang time, and R2 for boosting, if you have blue eco to spare, that is. Using all of these buttons to power slide, boost, and especially using the red and yellow eco weapons, all feel great to pull off, especially when you multitask to make sure that those in front of you or back of you feel your effort daring to gain your way. You feel like you're the king of the road, but unfortunately, in regard to how your car feels, well, let's just say it doesn't feel the same way. Rejecting your feelings. Like that one girl you liked back in high school. At first, driving feels fine, shooting feels fine, and braking feels fine. But later down the road, you realize that these cars begin to feel more floaty, and not enough weight to them. Sure, it may not feel that bad at first, but in my playthrough, your car does a 180 flip because of it. It's almost as if it's the international house of car flipping. This also leads to moments where you crash into walls even though you're turning beforehand, or collide with a sidewall, where you get stopped and have to awkwardly position yourself to get on track for the race while everyone else speed blazes you. It often makes me feel certain modes like time trial somewhat troublesome, as because of the floaty controls, you have a good chance of missing the item you're going for. And these controls show their uglier side in the final hours of the game, making them more harder than they really need to. As for the winner of this category, GX wins by a huge margin. Both games are pretty on point and responsive when it comes to action, But when we get to the feel of the cars, Jak X feels floaty and is hard to control due to how much the weight feels. F-Zero GX can get really hard, but at least when I lose, it's because it's my fault. Whereas with Jak X, it's the floating weight of the cars where sometimes I lose races. I'd rather lose to it being my fault than the clunkiness of the game that I'm playing, and Jak X can get pretty clunky at times. Score goes to GX. Music is crucial to every racing game. You don't want to burn rubber in silence, and if you do, you're just lying to yourself. These two games have your back when it comes to music, and then some. GX's OST is filled with futuristic rock, metal, pop, techno, and more. They amp you up for the speed racing, car-destroying adrenaline that is GX. It even knows how to get jazzy. And that's just the racing tracks. Yes, every character has their own theme and they could be some pretty great stuff. As you can all see, there is something for everyone here, whether blazing through the tracks or just looking at the character profile. Jak X's OST is rock. It is filled to the brim with heavy metal guitar, techno beats, and some sick guitar solos. These are all really fit alongside the car you yourself will be doing as you will blow up the competition like the renegade you are. These are all amazing tracks, and you feel like a total rebel when listening to these tracks. Defiance, epicness, and rebellion is what I can define these tracks. Perfect when driving in these Mad Max-like machines in a dystopic future. As for which OST is better, well, like I said, Music is subjective, so you guys might like one over the other, but for me, GX wins this round. It was a hard decision because I really loved Jak X's music and the feeling like you're a renegade. But GX has a greater number of tracks with all of different genres for everyone, which is crazy to think that they're in a single OOC with too many songs to count. This one was hard, but the point goes to GX. Presentation-wise, both of these games are great for their respective systems. F-Zero GX looks really detailed for a GameCube game. Models look great, and environments are futuristically pleasing to the eye, with tracks going up and down and all around. All in 60 frames per second. Cutscenes, on the other hand, well, I'll let you all see it for yourself.
You stole the prize money from us last time. You will pay for that. That's a fine-looking machine you're driving, Falcon. Black shot.
Yeah, the FMV cutscenes look off. There's just something weird about them that I'd be here all day to talk about them, but I'll try to shorten them up. Jodie Summer's hair looks like a mop. Captain Falcon's look like he's made of putty, and Black Shadow is Black Shadow. Their line delivery is all sorts of off. Everyone is over the top what they want to have to say, which adds to how campy the cutscenes are.
What do you... Wait a minute! What do you think this is? What a scam! That's of 2 million space credits! Ha! What can I do with this one coin?
But, stay with me here, it is all done on purpose. GX is going for the over-the-top, surreal, and cheesy feeling of the game. Why else would the cutscenes feel so hilariously bad? It isn't even ironically bad, but more so they try their best to make the game as wacky and out there as possible. And that what makes the game great for me. Other than that, the game looks great. Jak X is also a good looking game. Despite the dilapidated and desolate setting of the game, models and environments look detailed and good. It is really cool to race in these environments, whether it is a temple or a sewage pile at high speed. Cutscenes look amazing too. Characters are expressive with facial gestures and line delivery too.
Yearly budget. Now that's big. Believe it or not, it can get even bigger.
It is terribly dangerous. Maybe we should get law enforcement to crack down.
Yeah, well, this place don't scare us. No nasty gang is gonna get us to turn tail and run.
You can tell that these guys are taking the races seriously. It's almost as if they're in a race of their lives. Huh? Oh wait, they are? Huh. As for who has the better presentation, it's hard. Both of these games are amazing looking for their systems, but I do think GX looks better due to its futuristic tone that we're going for, and for having higher quality graphics. Jak X is by no means a bad looking game, but comparing a dilapidated future to a technological future, well, the latter is just more pleasing to the eye. Jak X has better cutscenes with good looking character animations, whereas with GX, you know. I'm not saying GX's cutscenes look awful just because. No, there's an intentional charm to these, and I won't knock the game for it. It's just that I prefer the cutscenes to Jak X since they do look nicer. As for who's getting the point, the winner is GX. The game is better looking than Jak X overall, and despite the off-putting cutscene, it's supposed to be uncanny and weird. There is effort placed into them. The best racing games include an array of other things to do. After all, there's only so much racing you can do before you want to move on to something else. What also makes a good racing game is that the cast of characters you can play as. Not just how they look cool, but also see if they fit into your playstyle. Fortunately, both of these games have their own modes, plus story modes, so you will be judging both games on this front, as well as the content overall for each game. To start with, GX includes the main racing, time trials, and machine editor. The game houses 41 racers, and to top it all off, each character comes with their own FMV videos, and even their own theme, to varying degrees. GX even has its own story mode to play through, as its main campaign. Containing 9 chapters, the game houses challenges that give variety to the game, not just being the race, but also other things like collecting items in a time limit, take out 29 other racers to reach CJ from GTA, and even a chapter where you need to keep your speed up or else that. You seem really have a lot to do in story mode, but other than that, you're just racing by yourself, or with another player. I kinda wish these kinds of modes aren't exclusive to story mode. I would love to play these in different tracks, but that isn't the case sadly. For what it is worth, there is content to go around. You even have these cutscenes to go alongside the story. Even if it's just Captain Falcon racing with other racers before eventually racing God himself. Pretty good stuff. Jak X, I believe, has content for both single player and multiplayer. You have races, of course, but you also have other modes such as Capture the Flag, Deathmatch, Death Race, Power Cell races, which are launching these powerful attacks as much as you can to win, and so much more. What's fun is that these different modes aren't limited to story mode either. You can play them outside of the story and even with another friend, giving the game great variety alongside the races. Jak X's cast of characters includes some from previous Jak games, along with baddies from story mode. You can even play as Ratchet from Ratchet & Clank if you happen to have a save file of Ratchet downloaded on the PS2 memory card. There are other characters you can unlock if you have other save files of other Jak games, though most of the time it's just Jak's past designs from said earlier games. And you guys thought Dragon Ball games were bad with how many Gokus they're able to pump out for the rosters. Still a cool character to unlock and play as. How you will play will depend on which card you select, which is great, as you can choose your favorite character and not worry about the stats they come with. You decide on the stats by choosing which card you select. Story mode is great too, as you not only play the different modes the game has to offer, but also tells a pretty interesting narrative that takes place after Jak 3, which involves Jak and friends racing for their lives as they're poisoned by crew, and now must win races to get the antidote. It even reflects past games for a bit there and developed into the character development for past actions. As for which game has better content, Jak X wins it by a mile. While F-Zero GX may have a greater number of characters to pick, Jak X has more modes for variety, an interesting plot in a meaty story mode, and the ability to choose your own character while without them having predetermined stats, instead of you selecting the stats by you choosing the card you want to get, plus Ratchet of course. Not to mention Jak X has a lot more going on for multiplayer than GX, with its different game modes, as like I said, GX only offers racing only. For these reasons, Jak X wins this round. And the winner is F-Zero GX! Jak X put up a good fight, or race, but GX came in first place with its controls, music, and presentation. Jak X is still a great game to race with its gameplay and content to go around, but at the end of the day, GX won with a photo finish. Again, both are great racing games if you wanted something different from the usual Mario Karts and Gran Turismo. There really needs to be more racing games like these two, as they offer good single player for racing games and great multiplayer. With that out of the way, thanks for watching, see you all next time.